Yeah, I mean, it might be a popular drink at a bar in Germany, but if you find one in the United States, it's pretty much going to be a fake. $2,500 US per egg. That's insane. I don't know, do you guys ever look at some of these laws and you're just like, I'm sorry, what? Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Ashton, and along with my husband Jonathan and our son Jack, we're the Black Forest family. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at 4 foods that are completely legal to eat right here in Germany, but happen to also be completely banned in the United States. From confusing dairy laws to the slaughter of pets, deadly drinks, and outrageous confectionery fines, this is one meal you certainly won't want to miss. Let's go ahead and dive right in. With the growing farm-to-table movement, raw milk has actually had somewhat of a comeback in recent years in the US market. However, due to concerns about illness and contamination, the laws in the United States regarding raw milk are heavily regulated, and the prohibition on the purchase of raw milk is highly dependent on where you live. At the federal level, the US Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, bans the interstate distribution or sale of raw milk. All milk sold across state lines must be pasteurized and meet the standards of the US Pasteurized Milk Ordinance. However, as of April 2016, as you can see on this map, the sale of raw milk in stores is legal in 13 states. 17 states only permit raw milk sales on farms, and 8 of the states that prohibit sales do allow acquisition of raw milk only through cow share agreements. But in 20 other states, the sale of raw milk anywhere is completely prohibited. Although not pasteurized, Vorzugsmilch is filtered and cold bottled with strict standards and regulations in Germany. For example, farms which produce Vorzugsmilch are inspected every month, which is actually why this form of milk is one of the most best monitored foods out there. This milk always comes directly from the farm and may only be sold for up to 4 days after milking. So if you find yourself in a bio store looking to purchase this form of milk, you actually might be able to find it on your store shelves. One such national brand here in Germany is sold under the Demeter label. However, I should mention that Vorzugsmilch is technically different than what is termed Rohmilch. In Germany, this is milk which must only be sold directly from the farm to the consumer. And because the microbial content of this milk is not regularly checked, the notice, "Raw milk, boil before consumption," must be displayed at the delivery point. Also, raw milk which is sold in Rohmilch form may only be a maximum of 1 day old. As the name suggests, you can only get this, again, directly from farms or in farm shops. However, whether you're talking about Rohmilch or Vorzugsmilch, both of these forms of milk are not pasteurized or homogenized. And again, in the case of Vorzugsmilch, these also can legally be sold at commercial grocery stores throughout Germany. You know, growing up in the countryside in the United States, I've actually known people who have eaten maybe more unusual meat types like rabbit, squirrels, or even raccoons. I've actually personally eaten alligator, buffalo, and of course, deer or venison. However, I've never actually met someone who's eaten horse meat.
I slaughtered this horse last Tuesday. I'm afraid she's starting to turn.
Now, of course, probably the most significant reason why Americans don't eat horse meat is really more cultural than anything else. We regard horses as pets, and therefore the consumption of its meat is seen as a faux pas. But there are, of course, regulations that surround the production of horse meat. But in the United States, these regulations are surprisingly new and also a little bit convoluted. Let me explain. For starters, horse meat wasn't always wholly illegal in the United States. Until the mid-2000s, the Food and Safety Inspection Service, or the FSIS, which is part of the USDA, inspected and regulated horse meat from slaughterhouses. But in 2005, animal rights activists raised concerns regarding the sale of horse meat. So the government made the inspection of horses a paid service. But soon thereafter, the FSIS was prohibited from spending such funds to perform inspections on horses intended for human consumption. So basically, because this meat isn't regulated by the FSIS, which is part of the USDA, it's kind of a de facto illegal meat simply because it can't be sold unless it's inspected. And if you can't inspect, there's no market for selling the horse meat in the US, thus no way to make any money from selling horses for consumption. Interestingly, the USDA actually did go one step further and also banned the import of horse meat from foreign countries. Due to this, buying horse meat or selling it at a public restaurant became almost impossible. Technically speaking, however, you are totally free to raise a horse, slaughter it, and feed it to yourself, your family, or your friends. You are prohibited, however, from charging people to eat that horse meat because then it would be seen as a commercial enterprise. Now, to be fair, the consumption of horse meat here in Germany, well, it's not really all that common anymore. You probably aren't going to find it at a major supermarket. You're gonna need to go to a special butcher if you really wanna buy some. But interestingly, it is still 100% legal. And in the threads and articles I was able to find online, the most common preparation of horse meat that you'll still find today in Germany is probably going to be a variant of roast bratwürste or Sauerbraten. In fact, traditionally, horse meat was used for Rheinische Sauerbraten. Since the meat of old horses was tough, it had to be softened by the marinade. But again, since the supply and consumption of horse meat has declined over the decades, well, it's mostly made with beef today. Hey guys, if you've been a long-term follower of our channel, you'll know that food is one of our favorite vehicles to explore new countries, cities, and cultures. Because whether you're eating at a restaurant or shopping at a supermarket, there's so much you can learn about a culture, from staple ingredients and spices their culture loves to cook with, to sweet and indulgent treats. But speaking as someone who is a foreigner living abroad, food can also be a wonderful vehicle to help you learn a foreign language. But not everybody has a native level speaker of a foreign language living right next door. But you can have one-on-one conversations with native level speakers 24 hours a day from your phone, tablet, or home computer with the help of Lingoda. If you haven't heard about them before, Lingoda is an online language school that connects students across the world with native level teachers in live classes to learn a language. Currently, they offer classes to learn English, Business English, Spanish, French, or German. And Lingoda hosts one-on-one or group learning sessions on Zoom for a range of abilities from beginner to advanced. And classes are available 24/7, offering a highly immersive and flexible learning experience. So Jonathan and I can fit in a class early in the morning before Jack wakes up or late in the evening after he goes to bed. And we've been able to complete German classes on trains and airports and in other countries as we travel as a family. So if you really want to jumpstart your language learning, give Lingoda a try with a 7-day free trial where you can take 3 group classes or 1 private class completely free of charge. But because you watch and enjoy our videos, we have a very exclusive offer that we can share with you. Use the code FAMILY30 or click the link down in the description of this video to get an additional 30% off your first payment. So why not join us? Boost your confidence in speaking and let the gift of language allow you to enjoy new countries, cultures, and cities across the globe. Heading out for a night on the town? Well, if you're going to a bar right here in Germany, between the different beers and liqueurs and wines, you can also order a glass of absinthe. Although the modern day spirit is native to our neighbor to the south of Switzerland, you'll find the alluring green elixir at many bars and liquor stores right here in Germany. But in America, not so much. And that's because although absinthe is technically no longer illegal, it is very different than what you're going to find on tap right here in the EU. And this is actually a pretty crazy story. Many of you are familiar with the 18th Amendment, better known as Prohibition, which was ratified in the United States in 1919 and banned the manufacture, transportation, and sale of intoxicating substances. Absinthe, however, was actually banned 7 years earlier in 1912 because it was believed that the green spirit contained in the bottles was hallucinogenic and dangerous. And although absinthe is actually produced a lot like gin, it's treated very differently from other distilled spirits. Absinthe remained banned in the United States even after the 21st Amendment abolished prohibition in 1933. The ban on absinthe was still in force 95 years later, when the FDA and the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax, and Trade Bureau finally authorized absinthe sales in the United States in 2007. There were, however, a few extra buts to this story that's pretty common with the FDA. All absinthe in the United States must be thujone free. And really, free should be in air quotes here. Thujone is the chemical found in wormwood and has been used globally for centuries to treat parasites, cancers, and stomach issues. But of course, thousands of people claim that they have also experienced hallucinations after drinking wormwood in absinthe. But it's important to note that the chemical can be fatal if ingested in large quantities. The FDA requires that the max thujone levels in American absinthe be below 10 parts per million, and that's technically thujone free. This means that American absinthe, or really any absinthe that happens to be sold in a US store, is actually bottled and labeled with no wormwood. So technically speaking, absinthe in the United States is no longer illegal, just absinthe that contains thujone. But functionally speaking, American absinthe can't really be considered a real absinthe. And again, the drink that you'll find in a German bar or on the store shelves throughout Europe is actually a pretty different drink than what you're gonna find in the United States. That's because that European absinthe that are properly made contain more wormwood. The legal threshold for thujone in the European Union is 35 milligrams. But my Americans in the audience, take this as a warning. While you can certainly come to Europe and enjoy the absinthe with thujone here in the EU, you need to think twice before you pack that in your bag and take it home with you as a souvenir. According to the US Customs and Border Protection, any absinthe you take through US Customs must be thujone free. In addition, the term absinthe cannot be the brand name, the term absinthe cannot stand alone on the label, and the artwork or graphics cannot project images of hallucinogenic, psychotropic, or mind-altering effects. Listen, I don't make the rules, I'm just here to share them. All right, so let's end this video on a little bit of a sweet note. And for that, we're gonna talk about an extremely popular candy here in Germany that is outright banned in the United States. Well, I mean, kind of. It's sort of not banned anymore, but there's an interesting update here. Let me explain. All right, so for starters, Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs may contain the German word Kinder, or children in German. It's actually technically an Italian brand. It's manufactured by Ferrero, the same company who makes Ferrero Rocher. However, the Kinder brand is one of the most popular and adored candies in the country. But the egg, known here in Germany as Überraschungsei, or Ü-Ei, which contains a yellow capsule housing a small toy, is loved by children across Europe. But again, I would argue that's nowhere more so than right here in Germany. But despite its popularity here, things are very different across the pond. And that's mainly because the Food and Drug Administration banned the sale of all food products containing embedded, non-nutritive objects over 80 years ago. And the European Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs, which again contain a non-edible toy inside, falls under that category. The FDA cites the inherent risk of choking as the main reason for banning Kinder Surprise eggs. But Kinder Surprise eggs aren't just outright banned from US store shelves. It's actually completely outright illegal to import them there as well. And it can actually come with some pretty shocking consequences. According to an article from the Wall Street Journal, As of 2018, US Customs and Border Protection had seized over 160,000 Kinder Surprise eggs from travelers' baggage and from international mail shipments since 2011. And in one crazy news headline, in 2012, 2 men were stopped at the Canadian border, where customs officers found 6 Kinder eggs in their car. They got off with a warning, but were told that the fine for smuggling in Kinder eggs was $2,500 US per egg. That's insane. So yeah, my fellow expat and immigrant families from the US or traveling to the US, be warned, not a good idea to pack one of these guys in your luggage to take back home as a gift for your friends or family. It can literally cost you thousands. But you know, perhaps like maybe the previous sections of this video where I talked about foods that were maybe not necessarily super popular, I think the Kinder Surprise eggs are actually kind of a surprising addition to this list because they are honestly just so extremely popular here. As I'm sure many of our EU audience will attest to. There is an estimated production of 1.2 billion Kinder Surprise chocolate eggs every single year. In other words, they make 40 eggs every second. So as you can imagine, with the American proclivity for sweet treats, the Ferrero company, which owns the Kinder Surprise eggs, yeah, they really wanted to get into the American market. In 2018, Ferrero launched the Kinder Joy egg in the United States, a product it had previously created for warm weather markets that found that the Kinder Surprise egg would melt quickly. It is actually a pretty similar product to the Kinder Surprise, but crucially, it's not actually an egg-shaped chocolate. Don't get me wrong, buyers do get an egg, but to our EU audience, this is a very different egg than the one that I think you probably know and love. One half contains an edible treat made from 2 soft cream layers. One is sweet, milk cream flavored, and one is cocoa flavored. Nestled into the creamy layers are 2 round chocolate-covered wafer bites that are filled with a sweet cocoa cream that's soft enough to be eaten with the included spoon. The other half contains the surprise, that non-edible toy that we told you about before. So you might be a little bit confused here. I know I was. So let me get this straight. You can have the toy, it can be in the packaging, it just can't be inside the egg? Well, or the edible part of the egg? Yeah, it seems like we're splitting hairs here. But yes, the new release is in fact fully compliant with all standards because it fully separates the toy from the candy in the distinct egg halves. Again, this might seem like we're splitting hairs here, but the new Kinder Joy egg shows off an interesting exception to the rule in the US, one that another food company has actually been exploiting for over 100 years in the United States. Cracker Jacks, for example, are both a food and there's toys inside the boxes. The difference is that the toy is not inside the food, but next to it in the packaging. So essentially the US government says it's okay if food and toys mingle. The toy just can't be inside of the food. On the next episode of the Black Forest family, in today's episode, we took a deep dive into foods that you'll find on German store shelves that are outright banned in the United States. But what about foods that are the other way around? How did American food producers change their recipes to fit the EU market? Which American culinary staples are verboten in Germany? And why is that probably a good thing for your overall health and safety? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And for more content from the Black Forest family, hit that subscribe button. So until next time, tschüss!